Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE SIPC.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet.
Very pleased to be joined by a man that's going to the NCAA Tournament with St. Francis, and that is Rob Krimmel. Rob, welcome back to the show. It's so great to have you with us.
Steve, thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with this, because obviously I saw your team early in the season, and I was so impressed by Juan Cranford that night at the Jordan Center, now to see him play like this. But what does it mean for the older players that have been through this, in your opinion, and what have they meant to you getting to this point?
The older players on our roster, or the older players that have come through the program? Which one? Because they're both pretty critical to where we're at. You know, the first thing is the tradition and success that's a part of St. Francis basketball. You know, those older guys that paved the way for us, and for a small school up on a mountain to have three guys hanging our rafters, their jerseys retired: Maurice Stokes, Kevin Porter, Noam Van Leer. Yeah. That's a pretty good collection of individuals. And then we have one player, Maurice Stokes, who's in the Hall of Fame, and has an NBA award named after him. Yep. You know, so for us, that tradition and success started back in the 50s, and then it kind of entered the golden era of St. Francis basketball that ran through the early 70s, and then the 91 team that set the standard for modern success for college basketball and making the NCAA tournament, with Coach Barron running the show, and then Mike Isolino and Joe Anderson, the two-headed monster that they were, set the bar. And unfortunately, as a player, I never reached that. And as a head coach, it took us 4 tries to get there. But the response that we got from, the golden era guys, the excitement from us making the run was contagious. Talking to Coach Barron and the guys that made the run in '91, their excitement as well to be able to join their club, and then guys that didn't get the opportunity, living vicariously through this group. That's been the really neat thing for me. Guys that I played with, and even some of our more recent alums that didn't get to experience a championship moment, but all of those guys played a part in helping us get to this spot. And then for the older guys on our roster, 2 years ago we only had 4 returning scholarship players, and really only one with any kind of impactful minutes. This past year we had 7 that returned, and that's a big number in today's era of college basketball. If you can have over half of your scholarship roster return, it made the job easier for us to talk about, okay, what does it mean to keep the locker room clean? What do we do on road trips? What does shell drill mean? And so that passing of the torch was a little bit easier with the 6 new faces that we brought into the program. And you mentioned guys, a guy like Juan Cranford, who's a freshman. Equal responsibility goes to them for being able to reach out and accept what the standard was. And so the older guys that wore the uniform before, there's a lot of excitement, and the older guys that are wearing the uniform right now, the upperclassmen, they had a big part in us taking that next step as a program, because they stuck with us when they very easily could have gone and tried their hand at other places for different circumstances.
In the last 6 games, you had 3 of them go to overtime, and then the other wins were by 3, by 3, and by 3. What level of mental fortitude have you seen from your players that has allowed you to negotiate tough, hard-fought games?
One of the things that we talked about halfway through the season was composure. Once we got out of our non-league schedule, and when you go through at our level, when you go through the gauntlet that we did, you're playing Penn State, you're playing Clemson, Georgetown, Dayton, Maryland. You're playing teams, that from a talent standpoint, night in and night out, we can play really, really hard, and that might not be good enough. Maybe we can hang around for a little bit, but over the course of 40 minutes, talent's going to take over, and that's become That's becoming harder and harder now with the money that's out there. Older players at the higher level are sticking around because they can make more money in college than they can being a professional in Europe or even in the G League. So, that challenge of keeping and building a chemistry come January at our level, it's getting a little bit harder because you're going into Christmas break. A lot of times, you're 4-9 or 5-8. You're in a losing record, and got to get those guys to understand that they've got to play with confidence. They got to build composure so that we're ready for February and March and playing our best basketball. But the unfortunate thing is, you don't come out of the womb with composure. Right? You don't just put on a uniform and all of a sudden you're composed. You have to go through some tough times. You have to struggle a little bit. You might be embarrassed, and it's individual and it's as a team. And so some of those struggles early on helped our guys get to the point where, okay, we can do this, because the next step after composure is confidence. And once you get the confidence, then there's a belief. And when we got to the under 4 timeout in the championship game, we told our guys going into the game, get to the 4-minute mark, let it be a game, and let's go win it. We got to the under 4 timeout. There's 3:41, I think, left on the clock, and I got to the huddle, and the first thing I said, this is what we asked for. You've been here, go win the game. And there's just something about that belief, and you really can't put – there's not a formula to it. A lot of it has to do with the players in your locker room, and Riley Parker and our captains Bobby Rosenberger and Ace Talbert, who is injured. But those guys have done such a good job of leading the way and making sure that we don't get too high or too low, so that in those games, in those tight situations, we're able to let our talents take over. And we've challenged our guys. Play with a clear mind and a clean heart, because that's the best way for your talents to shine. That's the best way for your talents to help us win basketball games. And fortunately for us, we've been able to be a few points, you mentioned, a few points ahead of our opponent the better part of the last 6-7 games.
Yeah, you only had Ace Talbot for 5 games, and a player I like, by the way. And to overcome that, I think, is another big plus for you. And at your level, you're rarely going to. Oh, by the way, just so you know, I talked to Josh Cohen before the USC game. We were on the floor, and he had nothing but the greatest things to say about you. And he wanted me to pass along all of his best wishes. This was about a month ago when I saw him, but I want to make sure you knew that, Rob.
I appreciate that.
No, I'm talking. He says is a great coach, good people. I mean that's. So I just want to make sure you knew that. Normally, you're not going. You're not.
We got after we won a championship, so he certainly has been able to support us from a distance, and we appreciate all of that support for a guy that did a lot of really good things during his time in Loretto.
So the transition in the question is that you normally are not going to get a guy that size that can play for you like that. So you're going to be an undersized team. Valentino Pinedo is the guy that has to go down and take care of all that. How hard does he need to work, especially when he's going up against guys that have a little more size than him? And what skills does he personally take advantage of where he makes himself difficult to guard by a bigger guy?
The great thing about him is that he's one of the guys on our roster that probably played in a bigger atmosphere than the atmosphere we experienced on Tuesday at Central Connecticut, because he played against France in the I think it was the FIBA U18 Spain versus France. And he played against Victor Wembanyama, and there aren't many players bigger than Victor or more talented than Victor Wembanyama. So he's not afraid of the opponent. He's not afraid of the moment, because he played at a high level against some really good players for his upbringing before he got to college, and then his 2 years at East Carolina. But the thing that he does really well is he can play out on the perimeter. In fact, we used him as a little bit of a pressure release in our championship game, because he can facilitate the ball a little bit like Josh Cohen could when he played for us. He can facilitate from the perimeter. We don't have to just rely on him to play with his back to the basket. But as we went through the year, he really developed a game, a post-up game, where he could get us some tough buckets around the rim, and he could rebound for us. So, there's some things that he does from an IQ standpoint that you really can't coach, and he understands that, hey, you know what, I'm a little bit undersized. I've got to add value in a different way. And for us on Tuesday, he was able to step away and relieve some pressure, and then hit a big, huge layup with about a minute to go to put us up. I think it put us up 2 or 3 at that point, and was rebounding like crazy. So there are other ways that he's able to offset maybe a lack of height and maybe a lack of size.
a guy like Riley Parker, you're talking about a guy that's nearly 40% in threes, and plus, like Juan Cranford, he's tremendous at the free throw line. What does Riley Parker do to open up the floor for you offensively?
He can really shoot it. I mean, that's the one thing. I mean, I love guys that can stretch the floor and shoot the basketball. And the other thing that he does is he has, like Val, he's got such a high basketball IQ. He knows how to play angles. Not only can he create for himself, but he's really good at creating for others. And the thing that he does, I think, better than maybe a measurable skill is he is a competitor. He's one of the hardest workers I've ever been around. And it pays off, because he doesn't I barely take him out of the game, and there are times where he will run himself into the wall. We give him a quick breather, and he's back in. But that competitive drive is something that's unique to him, because not every kid has it. I've always said, if you have the fire in the belly, we can get it out of you. If you don't have the fire in the belly, we can't put it in you. But he has the fire, and we don't have to get it out of him. He just naturally competes, and that's contagious on a basketball court.
Then there's Juan. What has Juan Cranford meant to how you play the game and the ability of the older players to look at him and say, you know what, guy can play?
I challenged him a little bit after the new year to be more assertive. And when Ace Talbert went down, most teams have that two superstar, right? A Batman and a Robin. One night you're Batman, the next night you're Robin, and then you flip-flop that, right? And you have a couple other players that'll give you, 8 to 10 points every night. But when Ace went out, and as we were kind of searching for an identity going into January, we needed someone else to consistently step up and be a go-to guy for us late in games, or be a go-to guy for us to start games. And as a freshman, his ability to the even keeled that he plays with, his physicality. But late in the year, he's really accepted that, okay, I've got to be one of those superstars. I've got to be able to go make a play for my team, and it's been great to see that transition for him. He's a talented kid and made the transition to college very well because of his upbringing and because of the way he had to compete for a spot at the high school level. He wasn't a kid that was just handed the keys to the car as a freshman and said, okay, you're going to be the man. He had to fight, scratch, and claw to get to be one of those guys his junior and senior year. So that competitive part was easy for him. And he had the size and the body to transition. It was just, you got to bring it every night at the Division I level. You can't coast through practice. You can't coast through a game. You can't stand up on defense, because the talent gap is obviously a lot closer, and there are a lot of guys that are more athletic than you, more physical than you, and to see that transition and that journey for him to where he's a guy that has made some big plays for us down the stretch is a lot of fun to see, because he's a talented kid.
Obviously, I know your family pretty well. So Kenny, of course, played for Penn State, and they got to the Sweet 16 in 2001. I know you wanted to go here. Going to St. Francis, how difficult actually was it at your age, and when did the place start to grow on you?
Yeah, I mean, Penn State, I still get chills hearing this interview, because people like you, hearing your name or hearing your voice, on the radio and the Beaver Stadiums and the rec halls, and it's such a great place to grow up. State College is a special place. Both my parents obviously worked there, and like you mentioned, my middle brother went to school there, and Penn State was that school that you grow up saying, hey, I want to go to Penn State, or I want to play there. I remember, I never played football, but to see the football team rush through the tunnel, that still gives me chills when I go back there. And so I thought that I was going to a big school. Penn State, yes, or pick North Carolina or Michigan, one of those other big schools. I was going to a big school. Yeah. Well, then the reality sets in, and those schools aren't recruiting me. And so I needed to start to take a closer look at the schools that were sending me the letters and making the phone calls and coming to see me at camps and open gyms at State College, and take a serious look at those schools. And, I came to St. Francis, and I remember saying to my dad the first time, Dad, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. The football field is smaller than my high school football field, or whatever I was looking at. My dad just let me run my mouth all the way down the mountain, right? Okay. And he said, listen, don't put all your eggs in one basket. you need to make sure that you look at a wide variety of schools. And because my dad was a swimming coach, he got the recruiting process.
Sure, right.
I probably didn't give him enough credit at the time, but he understood what I needed to be looking for. And he wasn't driving the car for me, but he was a passenger kind of telling me to turn left and turn right. I was the one that needed to drive that car. Yeah. And I don't know what it was, what turned me, but I came back for my official visit and spent more time with Tom McConnell. Tom Fox was my host. Got a chance to meet more people on this campus, and I came back for my visit, and I said, Dad, I want to cancel all my other official visits. I'm going to St. Francis. And I remember he's in the recliner Sunday night, kind of rocking there, half asleep, he's probably watching an NFL football game, and he said, no, let's just sleep on it. I said, Dad, no, I want to go. He said, if you want to go, you pick up the phone and you call Coach McConnell, but then you got to call the other coaches and cancel your visits. Are you sure this is one of you? Dad, I want to do it. And so at that point, I called Coach McConnell and said, I'm coming. Fall of 1995, and I haven't looked back. And it's been a special place for me and my family for the last, really the last 30 years. And first impressions can be broken. They can be broken, and an 18-year-old kid doesn't necessarily know what they want right away. And I'm living proof of that because I went to one of the smallest Division I schools in the country and had a great experience, 4 great years here. Met my wife, have 2 degrees from the institution, and I'm very fortunate to be the head coach of such a great place.
Why coach? I mean, I realize that you're in a situation where there's no NIL or anything like that, but there is the portal, as we talked about with Josh Cohen. Why coach?
The impact that you can have on 18 to 23-year-old kids, it still drives me. I think it's I look back at my time. It's such a formative stage in your life, right? You're largely guided by what your parents do for the first 18 years. The church you go to, the high school you go to, the people you hang out with, the restaurants you go to, all of that is really guided by the people that are in your family circle, right? Whether it's a mom and dad, aunt and uncle, the people that are around you for 18 years. But when you get to that college experience, it's really the first time in your life that you're making a significant decision that is going to really guide the next maybe 40 or 50 years of your life. And my dad always said, I want college to be the best 4 years of life, but I don't. Because I think the next 4 need to be good, the next 4 need to be good. And if you pick the school for the right reasons, those next 4 are going to be great, the next 4 and the next 4. And I think that 18 to 22-year-old phase, even more than when I was a player, I think there's still a need. I think there's still an opportunity to impact these kids so that you can help them make decisions that will not only make them better basketball players, but better students and better people. And development is at the heart of what I believe coaching is about, what education is about. It's not just developing players, but those relationships that you can have with your teammates and your coaches and your professors. There's a need for that, and I think now more than ever, especially coming out of some of the things with COVID and the challenges that young people face now. It's much more complicated than when I went to college, a lot more complicated. And I think the ability to plant that seed. We're not going to change who they are. Mom, dad, aunt, and uncle, they got them to that point, but hopefully we can still plant a seed or two that, maybe it's 4 months from the time they make the decision to go to St. Francis, or maybe it's 4 years after they leave that they're better because they played for St. Francis. They went to school at St. Francis, and that still drives me. It's more challenging now than it ever was because of the things that you mentioned with portal and NIL. But my stubbornness and my competitiveness is saying, okay, you're telling me I can't? I will, right? They told me I couldn't play Division I basketball. Okay, I did. They're telling me I couldn't start. Okay, I did, right? So that I couldn't be a head coach. Okay, I did, right? So that drive and that chip on your shoulder is still a part of my makeup, Steve. I still have a little hard-headedness to me. I blame that on my mother. That's why my mother's coming out of me.
See, he can tell me that.
You know my family, and that's true. I love my dad, and I got my bald head and my desire, I think, to coaching, but my stubbornness and my competitiveness, I think I came from my mother.
Yeah, don't tell her I agreed with you.
She'll be flattered, and so my dad will agree with you. I'm sure of that.
How ironic is it that in all likelihood you're in that first 4 that you started the season at Dayton?
Luke McConnell, who's our associate head coach, whose dad coached me in college.
Yeah.
He said something sarcastic. He said, "Hey, should we put like a St. Francis note card up in one of these ceiling tiles or something, or leave something behind? Because our league at our level, right? It's we're going to be in the play-in game. Now, if Central Connecticut had won, there were a lot of mock-ups that had them as maybe as a 14 or 15 seed. But, 9 out of 10 years, our level, we're going to be in that play-in game. And he said, should we do it? And we're kind of talking about it, and then I think the horn sounded and we had to go out for halftime, right? But it was discussed that, hey, how neat would it be that we could start our season here and then come back in the NCAA tournament? And, we certainly kind of spoke that conversation into existence. But our guys won't be fazed by playing in Dayton because the crowd out there opening night was phenomenal. It's one of the best places to play a college basketball game, and I'd expect the environment, whoever we end up playing, I'd expect the environment to be just as electric as it was that opening night, because the people out there have such a passion for college basketball.
One quick story about your dad. Your dad's coaching a Little League All-Star team. I'm coaching a Little League All-Star team. We're in Petersburg. Okay, we're in Petersburg. Neither one of us has won a game in the tournament, so now it's the last game. so the two of us meet at home plate, and Bob looks at me and he says, well, this is for all the marbles. And I said, you know what bothers me is it may come down to coaching. So after they won 4-3, I walked up to him. I said, I was right. It came down to coaching.
I don't know that my dad. I mean, he's got a lot of swimming stories, but the coaching and the baseball and some of the basketball and the other sports. Yeah, that's. I'll have to remind him of that one. He'll feel good. He won 4-3, and it did come down to coaching. Rob, I can't tell you how thrilled I am for you, because, as you know, I've been a long-time supporter of what you've been doing and what St. Francis have been doing. You know what? I always tell everybody, when you win a game in Dayton, you've won an NCAA tournament game, and that's really cool. Yep. That's what we're focused on. I told our guys, Steve, that we want this, these last couple of weeks like a vacation that you're really having a good time with, and you just want to keep extending the vacation, right? You want to find a way to maybe stay an extra day or two. Well, now we've talked about it as let's island hop. So I think we talked about going from Aruba to maybe going down to Puerto Rico and checking out an island in Greece, or trying to extend a vacation, because we get to play 40 more minutes of basketball, and this group has been a lot of fun to be around, and I'm excited to be able to do that. Extend the vacation.
Well, I'm so thrilled for you. Rob, congratulations on what you've accomplished so far, and best of luck in the tournament. You guys earned it.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Anytime. The outstanding head coach at St. Francis, and he's had a terrific career, and that is Rob Krimmel. We'll come back with more in a moment as we continue on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
No one has to tell you that prices on groceries and many other items have been on the rise recently. How do you get the most for your money? I have the answer for you and your family. Hi, I'm Justin Michaels of Surplus Outlet. If you never shopped at Surplus Outlet, you're missing out on buying your groceries at below wholesale prices. By shopping at Surplus Outlet, you'll save on the same things that you'd buy at the big box stores, and you'll see the savings add up. I invite you to come into Surplus Outlet and see for yourself. Surplus Outlet has a great selection of groceries and much more, including deli meats, cheeses, snacks, beverages, paper products, cleaning supplies, pet items, as well as a large frozen food section and fresh produce. At Surplus Outlet, we don't play the game of lowering prices on one item just to raise the price of another. The everyday low price is just that at Surplus Outlet, and we even bag your groceries for you. We have truckloads arriving daily with special buys, so check out our Facebook page at Surplus Outlet Grocery Stores or stop in often to save even more money. These specials go by fast.
Surplus Outlet, Route 11 Northumberland and Route 15 Montgomery. Sign up for Facebook and email alerts for additional special savings. Do it today.
Are you dependable, hardworking, and ready to get your hands dirty? Anthracite Industries, a division of Asbury Carbons, is hiring. We are looking for general laborers for first and second shift, a quality control technician, and a maintenance technician. If you take pride in showing up every day, working in the elements, and being hands-on, we want you on our team. At Anthracite Industries, quality and safety come first, and so do our employees. We're constantly striving to improve safety measures because you matter. We offer competitive pay, great benefits, a professional and respectful work environment, and opportunities for advancement in a growing industry. Bilingual applicants are encouraged to apply. Visit 610 Anthracite Road, Sunbury to apply in person or learn more at asbury.com. That's asbury.com. Anthracite Industries, where hard work pays off. Equal opportunity employer.